Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience episode number 264. Subscribe to our mailing list to receive weekly updates and exclusive content delivered right to your inbox. Go to drfrancesrichards.com. That's drfrancesrichards.com to subscribe to our mailing list and be entered into our monthly drawing. That's drfrancesrichards.com, drfrancesrichards.com to subscribe to our mailing list and be entered into our monthly drawing. We promise we won't spam you or sell your information. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black entrepreneur experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. Bringing diversity to your celebrations with apparels, home decor, and stationery. Welcome, Jacqueline Rogers, co-founder of Greentop Gifts.
Good morning. How are you?
I am perfect. Thanks for joining us. And I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business?
Of course. Well, I really started from as a small child, my mom would decorate ornaments and angels and nativities growing up for Christmas and make them brown like our family. And I remember those moments. And once I had my son, I knew I wanted to be very intentional about the images he saw during the holidays. And so I started searching for wrapping paper and stationery items that had a Black Santa Claus. When I couldn't find them, I decided to make my own. And so those moments turned into an idea, and then that turned into a business, which is Greentop Gifts. And we bring diversity to celebrations through the creation of clearance cloths and some other innovative items we have coming this season.
Now, are you doing all celebrations or mainly the Christmas holiday?
We launched with just Christmas. We're in the process now of launching birthday, which we're really excited about. And there's so many other moments and celebrations that don't have a lot of diversity when you go into the retail stores that we really want to bring different skin tones and shades and images to.
And talk about that aha moment and the story behind when you knew that your business was going to be successful.
I would say the aha moment really started, at first it really was a passion project. I wanted it just for my son. But then after we started doing like focus groups with other moms and parents and started to hear they were looking for these items too. And I would definitely say probably the day where I was like, this is the thing, is when we were packing them in our garage right before Black Friday of 2016. And I was working full time, and so was my husband, and we were packing orders at night. And I realized, oh, we can't pack these orders and fulfill the demand by Christmas. We need assistance. So we had to hire a fulfillment company to help us pack orders. And that's when I realized, okay, this is going to happen.
Talk about the execution. How did you get the funding for the business, and talk about starting the business?
So starting the business and funding the business, my husband and I, it was my idea. I came to him and I said, I think I want to, do wrapping paper with the Black Santa. I'll just go to Kinko's and print some. And then I started talking to manufacturers. And then I started looking at trends and the market and seeing that it was an $8.5 billion market. And then I realized that there was a space for it and that it was going to be bigger than just something that I would do as an arts and craft. My husband has a background in finance. And at first he was kind of like, okay, this is another one of your craft ideas. And then once I started to run the numbers by him, he was like, oh, there's a void. There's an opportunity here in the market. And that is when we started to basically, we bootstrapped, we self-funded from the beginning, invested our own money. And then we took a small round of friends and family, year 2, when we wanted to expand and launch into other SKUs and items. And then recently we've done a lot of grants and pitch competitions, and we've raised over $30,000, which is, grant money. It's been helpful in, furthering along our marketing efforts and our PR efforts. So those grants have also given us exposure to other investors and interested people that help us kind of grow our brand. And from that, it's just been, an ever-going conversation for us.
There are so many brands and businesses that are dominating. Jacqueline, talk about a brand or a business that's dominating that you admire and why.
I would say a brand that I really admire is Partake Foods, and that is my friend's company. She started the brand right around the time that I started Greentop. And she used to work for Coke, and then she left and she started a vegan cookie company. It's free of like the top 8 allergens. It's probably free of a lot more stuff than that now. But when she launched, she was selling her cookies out of her car. And she had a daughter who had food allergies. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering the story how she would tell it. And she really just has grown and got $1 million from Mercy Ventures, which is Jay-Z's business. And then she recently got raised $4 billion again in another round of funding. And she's Black owned, and she's in Target, and she's in Trader Joe's. And I really admire, because I've seen her from the very beginning of the idea and the innovation to where she is now. And it's encouraging and inspiring to see a woman of color do that and do it so well. She's a constant motivation for me.
Well, thank you for actually shouting out Partake Food. And she was also on Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast. So our listeners can get and hear her story on one of our episodes.
Awesome.
What are you most grateful for right now in your business?
What I'm most grateful for in my business right now, I would say, is the opportunity to know that whatever I invest and do will determine the outcome for my business. And I know that when I wake up in the morning, if I don't move the needle and do the emails and the calls and put forth the effort, then I won't see the results of that. And that keeps me going and excited about the business, because I know that it won't grow unless I put forth the effort. And it is kind of like a constant chase that I really enjoy about entrepreneurship.
What is your background? Is it in business? Do you have a lot of family and friends that are in business, and you have a lot of mentors?
So my background, I went to Clark Atlanta University and majored in business administration and concentration in marketing. I worked in sales for the past 14 years, CPG companies like Mars, Wrigley, and Nestle. So my background has always been in promoting and selling other companies' products to retailers from a account management level. So I feel like I have a good understanding of how getting the product onto the shelf and talking to the buyers. And my family is a long list of entrepreneurs. My father was an entrepreneur. He never worked for anyone but himself. So growing up, I always saw him have this drive and entrepreneur spirit. And I think that really was kind of the foundation for me having an interest in entrepreneurship. And from that, I'm trying to think of what the other part of your question was.
We'll move on from there. The question that I did want to ask you is, talk about what we can do right now to support your business.
Right now, to support Greentop Gifts, you can share it with family and friends. You can like our social media pages. You can share it with your networks and organizations that you're in. If you know someone that loves birthdays and celebrations and holiday moments, or if you have an auntie that loves Christmas products and Black Santa, share that with her. And follow our pages. Follow us on LinkedIn. I think that's the best way now that people can really support, and they can shop our products. We sell Christmas items year round, as we're about to launch some other items for Black History Month and for birthday.
Talk about your top 2 influencers in your life and what lessons did they teach you?
I see the first influence as far as for my business that I talk about constantly will probably be my father, because my grandfather was an entrepreneur. He had a restaurant bar that was called Greentop. And that's kind of where we got the name Greentop Gifts. And it was a place of celebration. People got together and met there and enjoyed and fellowship. And obviously, I didn't have the opportunity to visit it. It was around in the 40s and 50s, but it was a place that people still in our community and town talk about. And my dad shined shoes there as a kid. So it was kind of his first start in entrepreneurship there as well. So just having the opportunity, I would say my dad was very intentional about taking me along to meetings and to town. And he did residential real estate, and he was a photographer. And he always made sure to invite me or include me in going to the bank or doing withdrawals or going to pick up photos from the printer, and making all of those moments teachable lessons for me, even at a very young age. And I try to incorporate and do that as much as I can with my son, who's 6. My 2-year-old, she's not quite there, but my 6-year-old, he can understand it.
Let's talk about listening. What is that message or that sound that's resonating from your generation that we should be listening to?
I would say our generation, my generation, I was talking with someone about this yesterday, is When we see there's a need or there's a void, we want it filled immediately. We don't wait. We don't question it. We call action to it. I'm not going to say that people before us didn't, but I feel like we are empowered based on, those before us and our ancestors more to be more vocal. And it's encouraging to see young people have that need, especially in 2020. I think people have called companies and businesses to the forefront of representation and things that are important to us and what we want to see. And it's encouraging. It's really encouraging, exciting to see, especially from young people.
Talk about COVID-19 and what type of pivot or shift did you have to make as an owner of a business?
Well, at the start of 2020 with COVID-19, I quit my job. I was working full time and I started the business in 2016. It got to a point where I knew for it to grow and continue to be profitable, I had to make a decision to no longer double dutch between corporate and my own business. So I decided to leave and resign in February of 2020. And then I feel like the world shut down in March, right? We relocated, I can check that off the list in a pandemic, to Atlanta, which for my husband's job, but it was also very beneficial for my business because Atlanta is such a huge network of Black entrepreneurs and just resources and opportunities. So we moved our fulfillment company at the time because we knew with COVID, we were going to need to have a faster fulfillment and have a location that was closer to us. So having someone here in Atlanta. And something that we haven't really talked about, but my husband constantly mentions it to remind me of it. We sold our house and moved to Atlanta. And a lot of the money from our house, we've kind of used to kind of self-fund the business in 2020. And, it's kind of like we pulled a little bit of that money to continue to innovate and do things that we wanted to do in launches. So 2020 was our most successful year to date for business. So even with the pandemic and with COVID, we had a great season. And I think that really comes from a lot of the social issues with George Floyd and people wanting more Black items and seeing the importance of supporting Black business. While George Floyd's death was a horrible loss, I think it brought diversity and inclusion to a lot of people's forefront. And out of that horrible moment, there was some small change that happened, and we have been the benefit of some of that.
Would you recommend doing it the way you did it? If you would have known about COVID-19, do you think you would have quit your job?
I'm a worrywart, so I'm going to say no, because I'm constantly trying to control every bit of it, but it was the best decision. And when people ask me, would I do it again? Yes. Would I probably have done it? No. I wish I had done it sooner. That's the main thing. I wish I had quit my job sooner and not been afraid to, give up the benefits of my corporate career to help launch my business, because I've seen the growth in the business in the past year.
Let's talk about self-care. Jacqueline, what does self-care look like for you?
Silence. That's what it sounds like to me these days. We have 2 small kids, a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. We're all here in the house together. And I crave silence because I don't get that as much as I used to when I worked and traveled and was outside of the home. So I really just enjoy long, quiet rides in the car when I can get them. Self-care is meditation for me and yoga when I can fit it in.
Thanks for sharing that. And just a shout out to your family and your husband. Now, is your husband working in the business at all?
He works full time. He also does help with the business. I'm excited about everything. And he's like, well, does this bring a profit? So I think we are a good, healthy balance for each other. I'm like, oh my goodness, we got this. We're doing this. And he's like, well, what's the cost of that? What's the return on that? How's that going to work? And I think that's really important. Both of us can't be excited about everything. Somebody has to level you out. And he definitely levels me out. He gets excited about some things, but I think we're a healthy balance.
What is the goal for Green Gifts?
I think the goal for Greentop Gifts is really just I guess I would say, in my mind, I have a whole universe of products and things that I want for children to see that I think is important, not just for Black and brown children to see, but for all children to see. And so I want to just bring diversity to spaces and celebrations and moments, if that's through content and television, if that's through birthday supplies and Christmas items, if that's through decor and home items. That's just kind of what I want to do. I want for children who don't see themselves to find a character or an item that they can find, oh, that looks kind of like me, or I have something similar to that person. And I think that's really important for our children.
Talk about the manufacturing aspect and bringing a product to market. What is something that we should know that we don't know?
Paying attention to all the small details when manufacturing. I have about 800 coffee mugs. I think I may be down to 45 now that I didn't pay attention to in the beginning that are horrible and miscolored because I rushed and didn't get the right file to the manufacturer. And that's a hard lesson to learn. But when I drink out of that coffee mug, I'm reminded of it every day. So I would say making sure you understand every aspect to the weight, the material, the shape, the ounces, the packaging. You have to be extremely detailed and really understand every nuance about manufacturing. Otherwise, it's a really expensive mistake. And I've made one that I would say is a coffee mug. So after that, I think we've kind of learned those lessons. When you're working in the US, obviously you can go to the manufacturer, you can touch it and see it. If you're sourcing products overseas, it requires a lot more detail. There's some language barriers. For us, I think the biggest thing for me was I love paper and stationery, but I didn't know anything about making wrapping paper. And the way that I became really, I would say, confident to talk to manufacturers, I looked on YouTube and watched videos of how the paper was made. I wrote down the notes and the keywords and the terms that they used. And so when I called the manufacturer, I sounded like I knew what I was talking about. And he took a chance on, manufacturing our products. That's, I think, the most important part is paying attention to all the details.
And besides YouTube, did you have a mentor or anyone else guiding you through that process?
Google was my mentor. That was pretty much it. I would say, every aspect of it, we work with legal. We had someone that kind of helped us set up our LLC. I have an accountant that we work with very early on. I have a friend that I work with that did PR full time that helped us and pitched us in the very beginning. So I feel like I was scrappy and used the resources, and we really relied heavily on our HBCU network and friends. Our accountant went to HBCU, our lawyer. Those things were all really important to us to make sure we utilize our network very well. And so I tried to find people who were experts in their fields that could kind of assist us with the different aspects of the business. But really Googling and not kind of going to someone else who did something similar to me and saying, hey, how'd you do it? Can you tell me?
Let's talk about give and get. What would you like to give and what would you like to get?
I would like to give children images that make them excited and make them want to have items that look like them and that they can connect to if they have freckles or if they have glasses or if they have a gap. I think those are really important for children to see those images. So I would like to continue to give out those images for children to see and be excited about having that representation. And for me to get, I would like to get our brand into as many households as possible. There's so many people who don't know about our products. And that's kind of top of mind. Always my first get is how can we get more impressions? And that's probably always the top of my mind is how can we share this with more people, more households?
If anything, what keeps you up at night?
I would say what keeps me up at night, the business, all aspects of it. Where are we with the pitch competition? Have I responded back to Skype for a manufacturer in China? Did I lock the bathroom door in my 2-year-old's bathroom? All of those things. I'm a working mom that juggles a lot of different things. So I would say for the most part, the business keeps me up, the day-to-day activities, especially with COVID, because we're home and we're virtual learning from home. So there's a lot of things that many families are doing and doing a lot harder than what we are doing. So I really can't complain, but I would say the business keeps me up at night.
What is the biggest accomplishment so far in your business?
I would say 2020 has been our biggest accomplishment. Just overall, we got 3 big grants from Beyonce and her Be Good Foundation. We got one from Visa and iPhone Women. And we also got another one that I don't know if I can announce yet, but those were probably highlights because I feel like those are kind of like blue checks that help other people see, oh, this company it's a validation for us that we're on the right track and we're focused on the right things and we've got the right operations in hand. So between that, and I would probably say, we got some really big features this year with Oprah and Good Housekeeping. And so it's always great when other publications give you a nod that, this is something that they're excited about too.
What book would you recommend and why?
I'm finishing up Shoe Dog right now by Phil Knight. And a friend told me to read it like 3 years ago. And I bought it and never read it. And I cannot put it down at night. I am just so into his story, especially from the manufacturing aspect of it. Just, wiring money and sending a check very early on for Nikes and all of the different ways they went about business and how scrappy they were. I'm so upset that I'm just now ready to read the book, and I've got about 100 pages left, and I am just can't wait to pick it back up again. It's a great book, especially if you manufacture products. And if you manufacture overseas, it's a really good book.
Let's switch gears for a moment. Let's talk about risk and talk about your worst moment in business. I know you talked about the mugs, and I don't know if that is your worst moment in business, but talk about your worst moment in business and what was your takeaway?
I don't know if I would call it my worst moment. I would say it's probably my biggest lesson. We were anticipating a feature on like a large talk show, and we were told it's going to air this date. This will be the discussion. The products will be wrapped in your paper. You'll get a shout out. The audience is huge. We bought product anticipating that spot to happen. We were prepared. We were ready. Our site was ready. We were ready to ship it out. And then it didn't happen. There was an error where the assistant wrapped the product in somebody else's paper and nothing came of it. And we watched the show, and it was like the biggest letdown. And we had a lot of inventory we held for more than a year that we kind of shipped from one warehouse to another. And it was a disappointment. It was a learning. And from that learning, I don't hold my breath on anything on TV anymore. If somebody tells me it's going to happen on television, I'm like, okay, all right, we'll wait and see until it actually happens, because TV is fickle and, things happen and change in an instant. So it was a huge lesson. It was an expensive lesson, and it definitely centered me with television spots and moments.
How do you feel about the woman you have become?
Proud of the woman that I have become. I'm managing a business with 2 small kids in a pandemic, and I'm a wife. So there's a lot of different parts of people who need me. And I have, older parents that when you have older parents, that's top of mind and making sure they're okay and they're good. I'm really proud of the woman I've become, and I am always trying to make sure that I'm making time for me, because when you have all those other parts as a wife or as a mom or as just a woman in general, you always put yourself on the back burner. So I'm trying to do better in 2021 of remembering to put myself somewhere in the top priority. Not always first. That doesn't always happen with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, but I try.
Jacqueline, talk to a younger you. What advice would you give to a younger Jacqueline?
A younger Jacqueline, I would have said, quit your job and start your passion project a lot sooner. That's the biggest thing that I would say for me. I worked for 13 years and I had all these ideas. And I remember having a manager one time, we were working on a project and I was sketching something and he said, "You're so creative. I just don't think we're using your creativity enough." And I kind of chuckled because I was starting the business at that point. And I was just like, yeah, you're not. You're definitely not. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing.
What is your best discovery?
That's an excellent question. I would say this past year, headphones. They've been very helpful for my self-care, and in the house, I can put them on and kind of tune everything else out and focus on some things. And I wish I had done that sooner. A friend does that and she shared it with me. She actually uses earplugs. And it's been good to kind of tune everything out. Probably not the answer you were looking for, but that's been my latest discovery that I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner?
I want you to have a monologue with someone, and you're going to talk to the person. You're going to name that person, and this person has influenced you the most, and they have been like the wind in your sail. And what would you say to that person?
I would probably say, thank you for your sacrifice and for your lessons, for never settling and remaining fearless. Because I think those are things that I never saw my dad be afraid of anything he did in business. He sacrificed a lot and he made some very, risky decisions that have turned a profit very much so. For us at the time, we were like, why are you doing or investing in this? And now it's like, oh, that was a really smart investment. So I don't want to go too deep because then I'll be crying on your podcast, but that's probably the biggest part of it. Yeah. If I go any more detail, then I'll be boohooing. Nobody wants to see that.
Talk about your most memorable moment in life or business.
I'd say the funniest in business would be when we got the Beyonce grant last year. I was sitting at this desk. My son was on the floor. My daughter was asleep. My husband wasn't home. And I got the text message that somebody posted it. And I'm a huge Beyonce fan. And like, I'm a card carrying member of the Beehive. And nobody was answering their phones, and no one was to like for me to tell that we had got this grant. And my 6-year-old was like sitting on the floor, and I'm like, mommy got a grant. And he's like, okay. I'm like, it's Beyonce. I'm like, do you know who Beyonce is? And he's like, huh? Like, he was so oblivious, and he so didn't care. And I was literally shaking and screaming and jumping, and I was just all super excited. And he children will humble you. I'll put it that way. Okay. He did not care at all. So that's probably been the most recent one that I was super excited about. It was a very humbling moment. Me and my 6-year-old there. He's like, whatever, lady. Personally, I think one that really has shaped my business, it's a funny one for me personally, but I was a Girl Scout and sold Girl Scout cookies as a kid. And my dad would take me everywhere he had business to sell cookies. And I was like the top seller in my Girl Scout troop. And everyone else would complain that they would go to sell cookies and the people would say, oh, nope, I already bought them from Jack Payne's, baby girl. Can't buy them from you. And it was like, I was like the queen of Girl Scout cookies in my town, because my dad would take me to town hall, to the tool shop, everywhere, the city water department, courthouse. I sold cookies everywhere, the police station. And it was like my first kind of, I would say, start in entrepreneurship. You're collecting your names, you're making your list of places to go. You got to go back and say thank you. You're taking your cookies, you're doing your presentation. And he was very like, this is how you have to do it. And make sure you speak up, make sure you make good eye contact. And that kind of, I think, when I think back on it, that's probably when I first started doing like sales and walking around to person. So that's a memorable moment for me, for sure.
And that is also a very, very valuable tool in business and skill set, because if you don't have sales, you don't have a business.
Very true.
Jacqueline, what drives you every day to continue to do what you do?
I would say I know the life and legacy I want for my children. I know the things that I want for them to have. I don't want them to have any student loan debt. I want them to have a business. I want them to have products and items and things that they're given and left, and that they can take on and either choose to run it or have someone else run it for them. And that's a legacy that I want to leave to my children. And so that keeps me going every day. My 6-year-old is obsessed with real estate lately. He talks about mansions a lot. So I'm working hard for my babies so that they can live a life and have, I think it's important. I want to build generational wealth for my kids, really, honestly. That is my goal.
Speaking of legacy, when it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as someone that gives, that's a giver, that was there for people in their need or in their moment, and someone that was there to help them more than just when times were good. When things were bad, I want to be the friend that my close friends say, Jackie was there for me. I think that's really important, that you're there for people when things are great and when things aren't so great.
And you talked about real estate, and I want to do a shout out to Ivan Namorin, and he has a book. He's a Black author, and it's called The Real Estate, and it's a book for children.
Oh, I need to get that.
And I will give you that information. He was on the show, and just to really, you talk about the things that our children see and what they read. It's all important. So just wanted to shout out for that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
What value bomb can you drop right now to elevate Black entrepreneurs?
I would say my value bomb is to make sure your operations are in order. People want to sell products, but then they don't have the fulfillment, or they don't have accounting set up, or they're not paying sales and revenue tax. There are little things and products and services that people can use to help with that. Like if it's bench accounting, if it's Google Suites, or if it's finding a Facebook group that has an illustrator or a graphic design artist. I think those are all really important. If you have solid operations, it definitely helps your business. And that's, I think, has been what's really been pivotal for our business.
What is the best decision that you've made as a leader?
Learning to let go of things. When you start a business, I think it's your baby and you want to do everything, and you may not be good at all aspects of it. You might want to do the accounting, but that might not be your level of expertise. And I think once I started to outsource certain things and give them to other people to help us that were experts in their field, I could focus on the things like the innovation and new products. And I think it's really helped our business.
Is there a social cause tied to your business?
For us, we do a lot of giving and donations, especially during Christmas time, that we don't always talk about. We also do a lot of giving to historically Black colleges because my husband and I both went to HBCUs. As I said, I went to Clark Atlanta. My husband went to Morehouse. We come from a long family lineage of HBCUs, so they're really important to us personally. So we try to give back very regularly to historically Black colleges, especially with Giving Tuesday. We do that with Greentop. And we really partner with a lot of local organizations during the holiday seasons to provide them with toys and paper and products that they need to help other people have a wonderful Christmas.
Jacqueline, what do you need right now that you don't have to move the needle forward?
Oh, that's a great question. I would just say more impressions. I would like to get into a retailer. We're working on that right now for 2021, 2022, trying to get in some retail partners. And really just impressions, which I think is so important. There's some people who don't know about our brand. We're growing. We have a following. And our Christmas pajamas were in a lot of households this year, but there's still a lot of households who don't know about our brand.
And what do you do when you hit that bump in the road? How do you reset and readjust?
We watch a lot of sports in our house. And so my husband and I talk a lot about having a quarterback memory and letting it go. Try not to dwell on it, like find whatever the lesson is, what can you learn from it? And then like filing it away and forgetting about it. Try not to dwell on it. So I try not to just sit in it for very long. I try to take what I can and move forward.
Talk to the person in our audience and they want to start a business and they are still in their full-time position and they're fearful. COVID-19, should they launch? Should they not launch? Talk to them specifically, Jacqueline.
I think if you have a business and an idea and you have sound operations and you have manufacturing that can supply the demand for the product that you have, and it makes sense in both sense of the words, financially and, just in general with the idea, then I think you should go for it. There's so many opportunities now for Black entrepreneurs. Black's always been in, but in 2021 now, everybody wants to be in with Black. And so I think if there is a product or a service that you have and there's a void that can be filled and there's no one like you in the market, I think what better time than now?
What problem exists in the world today that you would like to solve?
I would just say like childhood hunger. That's a thing that I think about a lot, especially now that we're home with COVID. We're blessed where that's not a concern for us. But I hear every day our school, we get a phone call about picking up school lunches, the free lunches. And I'm constantly talking to my son and reminding him about you are so blessed and fortunate that you get 3 meals a day and a snack whenever you want it. But there's households and children who don't, and their families who don't eat on the weekends. And with school being closed, it's constantly top of mind to me, the number of kids who are home and don't get 3 nutritious meals a day, especially when school's out.
Advice you wish you had followed?
I would say moving faster to launch other items. I was so focused on getting Christmas right when we first launched that I was hesitant to start a new product to make our business go year round. And that's something that we're kind of now just doing. And I wish I had done that sooner.
How do you define success?
I feel like success is different for every person. Some people say, oh, it's a monetary thing, or it may just be a goal you've reached, or it may be, we launched a new product. It was successfully launched. It did well. So I think it varies from person to person. But for me in particular, success would be if you reach a target or a goal that you tried.
Who is your ideal client?
My ideal client, if you asked me this in December, I might have given you a different answer with all the struggles we had with the U.S. Postal Service. But now that's almost the end of January, I would say our ideal client is someone that understands the importance of diversity and wants to give a gift or an item that, when they walk into the party, somebody goes, ooh, who bought that? It's the person that puts the thought behind the gift, the person who is intentional about the product that they buy and the presentation of the gift. And I think that's our ideal client. Our products are premium, they're luxury. They may not be for everyone, but they're definitely for the person who loves to give a gift.
If you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
Well, a question that I think we figured out is, okay, that's what you said. What advice do you have for someone that works with their spouse? In year 5 of that, I think I've learned how to communicate well with my spouse. I've known my husband for almost 20 years. There are no secrets. I know him very well. I know how he ticks and what makes him twerk. So I get it. Twerk's not the right word, but his quirks. for me, I would say I've learned how to communicate. I wake up at 5:45, 6 o'clock, and I want to ask 20,000 questions about, have you called this person back? What do you think about this? I think I'm going to do this. How does this sound? Do you think these colors go together? What are your thoughts about this kind of product? Or do you think we should do it in plastic or should we do it in ceramic? And he doesn't want to talk then. He wants to brush his teeth in silence. And then at 10 o'clock or at 11 o'clock, he wants to have that conversation. So we have had to learn when's a good time to talk, what's the best way for us to communicate, and when are we both ready to have these conversations? Because my 6 a.m., his 11 p.m., those two times don't work very well. So we've figured, okay, middle of the day, let's schedule a call. Let's do it around lunch, maybe after dinner, when there's a better times. Learning your partner and what's the best way to communicate with them when you're running a business.
That was an excellent question. If someone wrote an autobiography about you, what would the title be?
Every day is a celebration, I would say. I think I can find, my friends would say, I will find a moment, a reason to blow up a balloon, a streamer, to do a party. I will find the theme in anything. So I probably would say that.
I love that. We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Fun Facts Lightning Round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to give me very quick answers. If there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Fun Facts Lightning Round?
I am.
Your first job?
CVS Pharmacy.
The last movie you saw?
Soul with Jamie Foxx, the Pixar movie.
You relax doing what?
Meditation.
Your favorite color?
Green.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
Erykah Badu.
Your favorite dance song?
Right now, we listen to You're Welcome from Moana way more than I want to say in this house.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Popcorn and pizza.
Your favorite month?
December.
Work out or hit the couch?
Hit the couch is what I want to do, but my pants are telling me to work out.
Jacqueline, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, why don't you share with our audience the best way for them to connect with you, to do business with you, and feel free to give all your social media handles.
You can shop our products and find us online at Greentop Gifts, so www.greentopgifts.com. We're on all social media platforms at Greentop Gifts. And my personal, if you really want to follow toddlers and food, is at Snacks with Jack on Instagram.
Thank you, Jacqueline. That is a wrap.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Our guests have sent us so much swag, books, and giveaways this year. I can't wait to announce our monthly winner. So if you want exclusive content delivered right to your inbox and to enter into our monthly drawing, go to drfrancisrichards.com and subscribe to our mailing list. That's drfrancisrichards.com. drfrancisrichards.com. That's drfrancisrichards.com, and subscribe to our mailing list. We promise we will not spam you or sell your information.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.